Hello, I'm Bretton, one of our MCAT tutors here at Inspira Advantage, where we help students get into medical school and other professional programs. And welcome back to another episode of MCAT Bites. Today, we will be diving into the fascinating world of hormonal regulation and ovulation, a crucial topic for understanding reproductive physiology on the MCAT. You can expect to see at least a few questions on the Biochem section concerning hormonal regulation of ovulation. But you can expect to see even more ovulation questions, so we made a 4-part mini-series on it. Please check out those other videos. Now let's get on into it. Ovulation, the release of a mature egg from the ovary, is a carefully orchestrated event. I mean, imagine if we were just shooting off eggs all the time. That would be super inconvenient and not a good use of energy. It takes a lot of energy to make one of these eggs. So how do we regulate it? Well, the main hormones involved in the process are gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH, follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH, as well as estrogen and progesterone. GnRH, as seen here, is released by the hypothalamus in a pulsatile manner and stimulates the anterior pituitary gland. Once it hits the anterior pituitary gland, it begins secreting FSH and LH, which can then act out on the body on various cells, particularly our oocytes. FSH will promote growth and development of ovarian follicles, each containing an immature egg cell. As the follicles grow, they secrete estrogen, which has a negative feedback loop on FSH secretion. So as we make more estrogen, that is going to inhibit FSH, which is good. Yay! No runaway FSH production. But this isn't the entire story, because rising estrogen levels from the developing follicle initially have a negative feedback loop on GnRH and LH secretion. However, once we get an absolute crazy amount of estrogen, the script flips. It switches to a positive feedback mechanism, triggering a surge in GnRH and LH secretion. So we're actually going to increase it when estrogen is really, really high, but otherwise when estrogen is low to medium, it's inhibitory. This is weird. Biology, we don't see this very often. It's really just with estrogen, LH, and prolactin. And what happens when we have a positive feedback loop? Well, we're going to see a massive spike in estrogen because more estrogen is causing more estrogen to form. We call this crazy phenomenon the LH surge, and it is a key signal for ovulation, causing the mature follicle to rupture and release the egg cell. We can kind of see that process going on here. So here's our follicle right here, this little guy. And when we ovulate, the follicle kind of yeets out the oocyte into the fallopian tube, which will go up into the abdominal cavity where the egg will flow around before moving somewhere it can actually fertilize. After ovulation, the remnants of the ruptured follicle will transform into a corpus luteum, which secretes progesterone and estrogen. These hormones prepare the uterine lining, or endometrium, for a potential implantation of a fertilized egg. If implementation does not occur, the corpus luteum will degenerate, leading to a decrease in progesterone and estrogen levels. This hormonal decline triggers menstruation and the start of a new menstrual cycle. For more details on the menstrual cycle, check out a video we just released on that. To reinforce these concepts, let's consider an example problem. A woman notices a sudden increase in her basal body temperature around day 14 of her menstrual cycle. What hormone is most likely responsible for this temperature shift? So we want to think, what's going on at day 14 of the menstrual cycle? There are a lot of good answers here, because a lot of things start increasing at day 14. LH, progesterone, really everything in the spike, right? But it turns out the answer is progesterone. After ovulation, the corpus luteum secretes progesterone, which causes a slight increase in basal body temperature. The temperature shift is a common indicator of ovulation and can be used to track fertility. It's actually a pretty solid way of tracking fertility when done right. Let's do one more problem here. If a woman has consistently low levels of FSH, which of the following is most likely to occur? An increased follicular development, delayed ovulation, thickening of the endometrium, or elevated progesterone levels? Well, let's think about, what does FSH do? If we go back to our diagram, we know FSH is going to stimulate the follicle to start making estrogen. So if we have low levels of FSH, we probably also have low levels of estrogen. If we have low estrogen, there's no way we can ever have the positive feedback loop. That just isn't going to happen. If we don't have that positive feedback loop, that means we can't have our LH spike. And if with no LH spike, that means we will delay Ovulation. Ovulation is a complex event regulated by intricate interplay of hormones, including GnRH, FSH, LH, estrogen, and progesterone. Understanding the roles and feedback mechanisms of these hormones is essential for grasping the key concepts of reproductive physiology on the MCAT, as well as netting you some much-needed biochem points. So I want to thank you so much for watching our video on hormonal regulation and ovulation, and I will see you next time.